Welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 532. I am your Joe Dix, joined by Mark Augustiniak.
Hey.
Matt Sellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games, brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week is part 3 and the conclusion of our discussion on The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. We will share our thoughts on the story, our final thoughts on the game overall, and we'll finally add the game to the list to find out how it ranks against Devil's Crush. Before we dive in to our topic, I'd like to ask, Mark, what language did you play the game in?
English.
Matt?
English.
How did you both find the voice acting?
I was okay with it. Like, I know, like, Zelda's voice can be a little off-putting. Just like an accent I just had to get used to or something, but I think by this game I was already used to it, so it didn't bother me.
Do you have a similar experience, Matt?
Yeah, it was fine. There's not that much story.
No, but so I played in Japanese after... I did not like Zelda's voice in the first one. And I think it was after the DLC came out or something, they added voice tracks where you could swap things. So I played a bit of the first one in Japanese and some Italian. And then I've seen it played in French. And I feel like I liked everything that I'd heard that wasn't English. So going into this one, I was kind of already skeptical of whether or not I'd be into the voices. And then the trailer that showed off Ganondorf and showed his voice in English, I was immediately like, nope, not doing it. Not doing it. Do not like this voice.
Right.
Does not sound menacing, but in Japanese, he's very menacing. He's like got a real good classic anime villain style to him. It worked pretty well.
Yeah, I've seen with Breath of the Wild where, like, they show, like, a compilation of, like, the one scene where, like, Zelda's crying in the Link's arms and showing how, like, each language put more emphasis into that emotion versus English. It's just
wild how it all, translates differently, but...
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Boy.
As we do with all of our ranking episodes, we'll break down where it came from and, of course, what's on the back of the box. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was developed by Nintendo EPD, published by Nintendo, released for the Nintendo Switch. First released on May 12th, 2023. And as we do, we like to look at the back of the box. This one's pretty straightforward. We got 3 big text overlays on images that say explore, create, discover. And then some smaller text that says venture to the islands in the sky, craft and construct fantastic weapons and vehicles, brave the cataclysm in Hyrule. Also use Amiibo to acquire useful items. So there's that.
It's a big one.
Yeah. If you missed our first 2 episodes, it's weird that you would jump into a part 3, but you're here now. So our first episode, we really kind of ran through our history with Breath of the Wild, experience with that, and our expectations leading into Tears of the Kingdom, including our first initial impressions playing Tears of the Kingdom. But we kept that one mostly spoiler-free, or actually pretty much spoiler-free, except for maybe some stuff for Breath of the Wild. The last episode, part 2, last week, we went a bit more into the temples, the overall gameplay and combat, gameplay progression, and our reactions to that. And this week, we're really going to focus on the story plot as it unfolds, what we think of it, what we think of kind of where it leaves the Zelda timeline. And then, of course, we will rank this on the list, which you can check out at thefreecheese.com/thelist. I'm going to do what the game does not do. And we're going to kind of run through things chronologically. And I guess before we even do that, I'll start with a complaint that I have about the video game. That the story is not presented in a chronological order, which is not a bad thing on its own, I don't think. I think we've all played and enjoyed stories that are told out of order and weird orders. And, there's those moments where things start to snap together for you that you're suddenly, you know what I mean? There's a way to do that effectively. This one is not that. The primary story delivery mechanism, besides like key interactive or like key whatever, like there are moments like when you start the game, we're all starting in the same spot. We're all wandering underground. The final fight's always going to play out like the final fight plays out or whatever. But the plot that moves it along in between is all predicated upon finding these drops around the world that are shown on the map via glyphs that are whatever. You can see them from above. You find a little pool or pond that turns out to be a dragon's tear, and you're shown a memory that reveals the plot. But if you just wander into one of those memories, you're going to be granted with whatever that cutscene is, not the cutscene that's next in line for you to see or anything like that. So, and Mark, I know when we first started the game, you were deliberately going through to find the cutscenes in what appeared, based on, Impa's map, to be the chronological order. Is that how you stuck with it? Do you feel like that was more effective than random discovery?
Personally, yeah. Just the way that they were all set up, it made me seem like that's just the way I should go about it, even though it kind of went like, yes, you can go anywhere in the game, but they do kind of hint like where you should be going at times, just to make things a little easier or whatever. So it kind of contradicts with that a little bit, but nothing too crazy in that regard.
Well, because I think to that point, and like Breath of the Wild, like, Matt had the experience in Breath of the Wild of being able to skip the majority of the Divine Beast and run right to the middle. And I think this one kind of keeps that idea of you can kind of do anything you want from the start, and they open up a lot. But in doing so, you can do all of these missions in any order. You can do all the cutscenes in any order. It's
yeah.
You have the freedom of choice, but it's.
It's weird. This feels like it should have went either all in one way or another. Like, if you're gonna make me care about a story, I shouldn't have to find it. It should just be laid out for you. Therefore, it should be more of a linear game. If you want it to be freeform as it is, then it should all be completely contextual based. No cutscenes. You just find lore hidden throughout the world as you're discovering, and you kind of put it together yourself that way, instead of getting the second half of a scene that was more exciting than the first boring half you find in another part.
No, I agree. And that's the stuff that, like, not to immediately compare, whatever, we're already there. But when you look at a From Software game, right? Like, the reason that the From Software games became so compelling to so many people is because of the ambiguity. And so much of that, I know this is tired and whatever, but for maybe there's people who've not heard this quote, so someone out there, this will be the first time they've heard it, and not quote, but anecdote rather. But the director of those games, Miyazaki, when making Demon's Souls, one of the big inspirations for that was, yes, a return to games that were more, I should say, or that were less forgiving, because I don't want to say more punishing, but less forgiving and less guiding of the player. That was part of it, but the other part of it was he played a lot of games that were imported from America, and he did not speak English, so he would play through and not really understand what was happening, and he'd have to make up his own stories in his head. And that led to all of the weird lore and the way that there's really, lack thereof in all of those games, where you have to read an item description and watch a 6-hour video on YouTube to understand what the plot of any of these games are, right? But And it's one approach and it's whatever, but I think there's something in the mystery of, especially a game like Zelda, where you're able to fill in the blanks that goes a long way. Granted, I'm the same person that wants more story out of Zelda and wants to see more things, so I'm going to contradict myself left and right in what I want. But yeah, this presentation was weird. And the thing that stood out to me is like, when you finish each temple, you would get a cutscene that kind of showed a flashback of that respective area's like hero and passing down the little stone to the new, younger, lineage of that area or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But all those cutscenes were like very similar and cookie cutter. They weren't unique to the area you were in, really. And I found that they were like, after you saw one, you kind of knew what the rest were going to be. Well, I guess after you saw two, you know what the rest were going to be. They were kind of pointless. They didn't add much of like character to each of them. But to me, that felt like something that was done because Nintendo didn't want you to miss something by going out of order. Yet these other main big story cutscenes. So, for example, just jumping around in the plot a bit, and reminder, spoilers. I saw the like Sonya getting killed by the Zelda puppet memory before I saw like Zelda meeting Rauru and Sonya in the first place. So I'm like, who is this woman that's getting killed by a fake Zelda? What is happening? You know what I mean? But like when you watch it in order, it makes perfect sense. And again, I think those things can be presented out of order and be compelling, but none of these things, save for like two, were really compelling on their own. I don't know. Matt, Mark and I have been volleying a bit. How did you approach the story on this one?
Oh, I think I got more than what I thought I was ever going to get. And I don't mind the structure of it. The whole game is just go over there and see what's there, and maybe there's a main objective, maybe there's a secondary objective, maybe it's kind of nothing besides like a chest. I didn't mind the story being played out of order, because I don't think I expected to get much. We got far more. I mean, I didn't do the photo stuff in Breath of the Wild, but did you get much out of those in Breath of the Wild? I feel like we got more here with these tiers.
It's definitely better to follow in this one, but I feel like I just got the same feeling from both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know. I didn't really go seeking the story in Breath of the Wild after a Divine Beast or two. So, I kind of gave up on it. I guess here I found a tier early and kind of saw what was potentially happening. So, and they were easy enough to kind of find. They're big markers in the sky, especially as you're doing all the towers and you see these big giant glowing pieces, like emblems, art, I don't know, engraved into the ground in Hyrule. They're easy enough to get. But I don't think I minded it. I think it just matches the rest of the structure of the game. Of like, this is at your own pace, and the story's kind of unfolding at its own pace to kind of match what you're doing, because the game has no order. You don't have to go. It's not like the game encourages you to go northwest first or northeast or south.
Right.
You just pick a direction and go. Hell, you can go down, like not south, like down, and just go there and go nuts. I think, I a little bit of structure would, I think make some of those reveals cooler. Like, I feel like I saw like the potential death scene before, like a boring, like, hey, Zelda, don't eat that or don't eat that stone kind of thing. But like, I don't know. I thought it was fine. I'm not going to get too upset about it.
All right, I'll stop complaining.
Well, I mean, it is probably fine on its own, and I'm really curious for like first timers who like never played a Zelda game before, and this is their first one. I'm curious on what they think of it versus, we're so experienced with stories and we always want to be surprised and find a twist or something and not predict everything. But with Zelda, that's almost near impossible to be surprised at this point because they tend to play it safe more often than not.
And you,
So as soon as you see one scene, you're like, I know this is going to play out. Then it happens. You're like, yep, okay.
yeah. Yeah, there's very little room for that. There's certain surprises. You might have character surprises, but there's so many things that, yeah, they fall into tropes. And for Nintendo, story's always been secondhand. It's always been, what is the gameplay, right? And the gameplay in this one, we talked about a lot last week, is, not always what I wanted. But the story, we start with the Master Sword. It's Link and Zelda talking to the Deku Tree. Deku Tree? Deku Tree.
I say Deku.
Just sort of like a reiteration of the hey, this sword will stop Ganon. Basically, was the breakdown of that. And then that technically predates the opening of the game. So beneath Hyrule Castle, Ganon awakens, cuts off Link's arm, and sends Zelda back in time. Well, he pushes Zelda down, she sends herself back in time. I
don't necessarily know that, though. I mean, to be fair, she just kind of disappears in light. You kind of don't know what happens.
No, for sure. Yeah, you don't know that right away. I'm just sort of,
Okay. I just wanted, yeah.
No, I'll kind of run through these bullet points, and then if you guys had a moment that stood out that you felt like was cool or exciting or you liked or you hated, just stop me and we can dive into it. But yeah, you're right. She just kind of falls and disappears. We don't really know what happens. And that's kind of like the beginning and end of cutscene at the beginning of the game until you start finding these memories. But in the order you're finding, or rather the chronological order, right after that moment, after Zelda falls, Zelda arrives in the past and first meets Rauru and Sonia, who are the first king and queen of Hyrule.
Yeah, original.
Yeah. Zelda talks to them and says, they kind of realize, oh, wait, we're from different timelines. I got to get back to mine because there's this evil guy. And this is where they're like, it's cool. Just tell everybody you're a distant relative. Also, what do you know about rocks? And they tell her all about the stone that she has around her neck and that she probably fell back through time. And that's probably what happened because she can control things with her stone. Zelda's introduced to Mineru, Rauru's sister, and she gives her a Nintendo Switch as a present and says, please give this to Link in a long time. Which, for us, the player, that's where you get the Pura pad in the far-off future. And, canonically, the little Zonai or whatever that gives it to you is like, Princess Zelda wanted you to have this. So it's like, you get to kind of see that connective thread, which
kind of makes a paradox.
It is, but like also like I kind of like it.
Because I think I guess I was under the impression that the pad was based off of the Sheikah Slate, but the Sheikah Slate is based off the pad.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because that's the thing.
That Pura pad had one hell of a battery, though.
If you put it in sleep mode,
Switch does not have that.
No, but that was something I noticed going through the timeline chronologically with the way the events of this thing all play out is like really leaning into that logo symbol of the Ouroboros. And like this game fully is kind of that. We'll kind of get to that a little bit later, but in terms of like timeline discussion for Zelda, but yeah, a lot of weird stuff, paradox, a lot of things kind of couldn't have happened, or maybe they only happened because of this happening. And after Zelda gives Mineru the Switch, she says, hey, so these stones do all sorts of cool stuff, but you should never eat one. Don't put a rock in your mouth. Keep it on your neck. Which we talked about last week at the end of the episode. Like, of course, when that happens, like, don't push this button. Like, someone's going to push the button. That's the story beat. We're all expecting it. We first get introduced to Ganondorf. We see from his perspective, he's like, oh, I want to kill all these fools and take over this land. Also, those rocks look pretty powerful. So then he goes to meet King and Queen, bows down before them, pretends like he's honoring them. And he's like, here I am to be polite to you, and I come from the Gerudo, and blah, blah, blah. After he leaves, they're like, yeah, we're not buying it. Because Zelda does the same Ocarina of Time thing, like, I think that guy is full of it, and I think he's evil. And they're like, yeah, we know, but it's cool. We'll play his game for now.
I was happy in that scene that they did that instead of like, oh, betrayal. Like that was a little bit of a because I think I'd seen you're gonna get there, the invasion stuff, and I was like, oh, did he trick them? Like, is this how dumb they are? But they were like, no, this guy, it's not my kind of guy.
Yeah, we know. We could smell you. After that, the next timeline scene, Zelda's sitting with Queen Sonia and having a conversation about life and whatnot, and Zelda knocks over a cup of tea, catches it in midair with her freeze time thing, which really is reminiscent of the recall ability that Link has.
Right, yeah.
So we get to see that and kind of how that would, later translate forward. Then we get that scene that we've talked about a few times where Zelda asks Queen Sonia to meet alone and then tries to stab her. And then turns out it's a fake construct or whatever you want to call it of Zelda created by Ganon, who does in fact then kill Sonia. And then he starts, once he has her stone in his hand, he starts creating these monsters, starts making his moves and taking over as much land as he can. This is where Rauru kind of gathers people from the four corners of Hyrule, brings them together to devise a plan on killing Ganon. He gives everybody one of the sacred stones. Zelda kind of opens up about the events at the beginning of the game. Hey, before I got here, I saw this dead dude in the bottom of a hole, and he woke up, and he took my friend's arm and broke his sword and threw me in a hole. And that's how I got here. So, kind of, then it's all piecing together that the reason that Ganondorf was imprisoned in the first place is that Rauru sacrifices himself and, leaves his arm holding Ganon's corpse down at the bottom of beneath Hyrule Castle. At that point, we get a cutscene where Mineru explains the Zonai origins and just sort of where the people came from and all of that. We get a little bit of that, touch of what I think they hinted at, they being the developers. Did you guys ever watch the Breath of the Wild GDC panel or see any of the, stuff that came out of that from years back?
I did not.
If I have, I can't remember off the top of my
head. It was how it was basically running down scrapped ideas that they had that some turned they were oh, really early on we thought it'd be cool if Link had a motorcycle, and of course that became DLC. Oh, yeah. There were some other things from that GDC panel that never quite made it into Breath of the Wild's DLC, but one of the things that came up they talked about doing just generally was aliens, just straight up there was a picture of a UFO flying into Hyrule. Which the Zonai aren't, it's not quite, flying saucer, but you do get a bit of alien-ish stuff. Then we get the big battle. Ganon kind of kills everybody, and we see Rauru actually imprison him and leave his arm in him. And after that, kind of in the wake of that, Ganon's in prison, but he's very much saying the whole time, yeah, you can do this, but you're going to have to die with me, and I will escape at some point. To which Rauru says, well, remember the name Link, because dude's coming for you. I'm just going to keep you at bay until he can get strong enough to kill you. Zelda finds the damaged Master Sword at this point and realizes the only way to make this happen is to take the centuries that it's going to take to restore the power of the Master Sword, get it to Link when the time is right, and he can then attack Ganondorf. So Zelda eats her stone, becomes a dragon, embeds the Master Sword in her forehead so she can just fly around for thousands of years, restoring it to full power in the sunlight. And that's kind of like the main memories you find. Plot-wise, we carry forward a little bit once we actually confront Ganondorf. How deep did we go last week about retrieving the Master Sword? We talked about that quest a little bit, but did we actually like jump into it?
I remember mentioning that was one of my favorite parts of the game, but I don't remember if we went into it.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did.
Yeah, Matt, you want to talk? Do you remember the breakdown of that quest?
Well, talking if you get it legitimately or at the
yeah.
Yeah, it's in the woods, the Lost Woods. Is it Lost Woods? Hey, look at me. It's in the Lost Woods, but like you quickly find out like you can't really penetrate the fog. You don't get far at all, no matter what you try to do. And then, what is it? Do you have to go underground first, or do you have to fly into the center of it?
You need to... Now I don't remember, and I'm staring at a guide. I feel like I jumped... No. You just jumped down the middle of the Great Deku Tree. That's the problem I had. I went there and saw that he was sick, and I was like, okay, I need to cure him. So I went underground and then ran underneath of where he was, but it's kind of like blocked. You can't get past a certain point.
You have to like fly.
Yeah, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? And it was either you, Matt, that messaged me, or we both, I don't remember, but like...
We were going back and forth that night because we were both like, what the fuck? Because
we knew it had to be there, but no, I remember you texted me and you were like, I'll give you a hint. Go past because there's little boys talking to you, right? And you were like, just go past the boys and jump. And I was like, okay, I got it. And then, you go down, and I'll from there.
Yeah, I forget. So you have to light the roots, and the roots is what dissipates the fog, right? At least enough.
Yeah.
So that way you can get to the temple, and then you do the temple. And then, is that when you jump down dude's mouth? Or can you just do that anytime? I didn't realize until...
No, I think you can just jump down whenever.
Oh, yeah, and then you face our favorite Gloom Hands, and then I guess part of every Gloom Hand encounter is a fake Ganondorf battle?
Yeah.
It starts at a certain point, though, right? Or did I just never defeat them, so I never got to Ganondorf until that point?
That was definitely my first time defeating them there.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually if you're able to defeat them all, it turns into a Phantom Ganon.
Okay,
Phantom,
so then,
that's
I guess that just coincidentally. Okay.
Yep. Then you defeat him, and then, Deku Tree is not sick anymore, and then he lets you take the sword. Or, sorry, he gives you the location.
Right. Yeah, he tells you where it is, but when you're looking at it, it's just moving. And then, so if you don't do that, and you just, because, to Matt's point, in Breath of the Wild, you've been through that journey to get the Master Sword. It's part of the main story quest to go through the Lost Woods and get it. If you don't do that, you just end up, you end up uncovering all the dragon tears and doing the glyph. You get a quest that says, the Master Sword's, go get it. So you can do it that way, too. Or if you just happen upon the light dragon, you can pull it out of Zelda's head. You don't really know that it's Zelda at the time, but
they do throw a curveball in this game. You need stamina, not hearts.
Yes, that was a different. But then there's the other piece. Jumping back to the story, when you're ready to confront Ganondorf, I guess there's a couple stages to the Ganondorf fight, so let's break those down. You first meet him, and we talked about it a bit last week, right? There is still kind of a boss rush, right? If you skip any of the temples.
Correct. It's at the very, very bottom.
But, right, I guess, to get to Ganondorf, you have to jump beneath Hyrule Castle and go quite a bit further into that whole scene. Which one little element that I thought was pretty neat there, you remember at the beginning of the game as Zelda and Link are kind of walking down with torch in hand, and you can see some glyphs on the wall, and it's all the stuff that we saw in the trailer that we were like, wait, freeze frame, tell me what that is, what's happening there, all that stuff. There's some rocks that are blocking other glyphs on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
If you bomb those, you can see all of the spoilers for everything. So if you get bombs and just go down there at some point, even before you get all the tears, you can just see like, oh, there's Zelda eating the stone, there's Zelda turning into a dragon, there's, all that stuff is there written on the walls, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so you go down, you go past this, there's waves of enemies you encounter, but also there's just gloom everywhere to traipse through. But at this point, you've got your mech if you've done all the temples, so you can just kind of walk through the gloom.
Do you have a mech? Yeah.
And then you fight Phantom Ganondorf first, right? Or is it actual
Yes.
Ganon?
Phantom would make more sense.
Phantom's the one up top, right? Don't you face a Phantom in the actual castle, and then you fight Ganondorf?
You face a
below
couple.
ground? Or the Demon King, or whatever he's referred
Right,
to.
because you do the bit where you're like wandering around through the castle and you're chasing that same Zelda puppet. And then you're fighting Phantom Ganons in there. And then I feel like when you get under, you fight actual Ganondorf. At least at first, but then you kill him, and then that was one of my favorite parts, is his health bar refilling. And then it just keeps going.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like the UI is broken, but it's like, I don't know. It's a fun little breaking the fourth wall, I don't know, little moment just to play with that. Like, oh, this guy's powerful. He's very powerful. I need to be ready for this.
It kind of mirrors when you first start the game, because you don't expect your hearts to be deleted.
Right. You see, you're maxed out, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, anything from that fight that you remember that stands out that was exciting or surprising?
I like that he had more than one weapon. Had like the sword, had the halberd or spear, and then what was the bow?
The only thing that was disappointing was, if you manned up and started defeating some of the Hands of Gloom, especially in areas where they would like be with treasures and stuff like that, like we kind of already knew his mechanics, which kind of like, I guess he's not the final boss, but like for a final boss, kind of takes the wind out of the sails of the battle.
I can see that.
It's the only thing minor. Like I said, the giant health bar kind of like covers that a little bit to make it unique, but I
remember going into that fight and being worried about gloom, so I way overcooked food that would give me their like doom or gloom resistance. So I was kind of OP going into that fight. Like I had way too many things I could heal myself or like remove any of the gloom consumed hearts, any of that stuff. I did really like his outfit was very reminiscent of like Wind Waker in a way. Like he's got that robe kind of thing going on. But honestly, the thing that I liked the most, I wish we could have had more of in this game. Like he felt fun to fight, and there weren't many opportunities to feel like I was having fun fighting something in straight combat.
Right.
He was just neat and new and different enough. And then you do get to a point where after his health bar fills all the way up, he's kind of like enraged and he's covered in the gloom glow, and he's got his long demise looking hair going on. And he starts throwing, he's like making copies of himself, of course, but he's also throwing gloom balls at you. And you can hit them back just like did that take you forever? Because it took me way longer than it should have to remember that this is a Zelda game. And Matt, you don't have that, like, from previous, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the Zelda games you've played. I don't know that you've been in one where, like, that's been the trope to, like, strike the thing back at Ganon, but how did you fare with this? Did you figure it out pretty quickly?
Which boss fight? I'm sorry. I was, like, kind of looking at something.
The second stage of the fight when Ganon's actually, like, throwing gloom balls at you.
Oh, it's been quite a while since that boss fight. I remember struggling with something specific and not figuring it out. I know I didn't look up anything. I forgot what the exact difficulty was. It might have been something to do with that. There's definitely, I wish I could remember now. But
for me, it was that. It's like the gloom balls come, they're very difficult to dodge. And that's the thing, is like after way too long, like I kept like getting almost to bottom health and I had like nothing but gloom hearts like consumed. So I was like, can't just like heal. You have to heal with the gloom recovery. And I'm like burning all of those aforementioned resources. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And I'm like, oh wait, Master Sword. Oh, wait a second. As soon as I started doing that, it all clicked into place. And yeah, but it was a fun fight. I really liked that fight.
I wish an empty bottle was an option for that.
Wait, what was that game?
In Ocarina, the final fight with Ganon, like when he's shooting the ball at you, instead of using your sword, you can just use an empty bottle and just keep smacking it back at him with that.
I love that. I did not realize that. Well, once we beat Ganon, Ganon eats his Power Stone. And he becomes a dragon as well. At this point, Zelda swoops in her dragon form to pick up Link. And at this stage in the game, if you did not do any of the Master Sword quests that we talked about, this is where you get the Master Sword. It's kind of, I do like that in terms of like, I talked about like broken continuity and weird stuff earlier with the timeline of the memories jumping around. But this, I like that, like, no matter which approach you take, it's the right approach. Right? Like when you get the Master Sword is when you get the Master Sword. There's no right or wrong. You're always going to get it for the final fight. I don't know how it works with Ganon's spitballs if you don't have it in that fight. I guess you can just throw him back with any old sword. It doesn't need to be the Master Sword.
Probably break your weapon.
Probably, yeah. I can see that. And then you have I don't know. What did you think of the actual final demon fight, Matt?
Bleh.
Okay. Yeah. Same. Mark.
Yeah, it wasn't anything too flattering versus what I've been through before. Like I mean, like the final boss in Breath of the Wild wasn't that extravagant either. It was just, hey, go for the glow spots.
Yeah, I will say this is a minor improvement on that. Mechanically, it was meh. I liked the dragon first. I liked the tone it was kind of going for. Like it felt epic. It felt grand.
Yeah.
It just
as a video game
doing it.
Yeah. I'm with you. Yeah, thematically it made sense. And I liked the like falling and stabbing that final bit on his forehead. That's all cool, but yeah, I don't know.
No, that whole. I mean, this is going back to the whole deep dive to the towards the Ganondorf, the first phase of the Ganondorf battle. But like, I enjoyed that whole climb down, because it was like your toughest enemies. I was being really challenged. This time I actually had equipment for this dive. I wasn't just like running for my life. I enjoyed all of it. It was just the boss battle was, good. Besides my one complaint, like I said, like I kind of already seen a lot of its mechanics. But no, it was like all of this good, fun, like deep dive. I was really enjoying myself. And then it kind of ends mechanically on that like sour note. I was like, but. It is what it is. I do agree. I do like it better than the last bits of Breath of the Wild. The horse.
I like the Breath of the Wild brought back the
horse.
pig motif for Ganondorf, or for Ganon, but
Yeah.
I liked that he was actually in form this time, rather than just like the essence of Ganon. Although it makes full sense, like thematically, story-wise, why in Breath of the Wild we just got the essence of Ganon and not act like I do like the progression of all of these things.
Yeah, like up until this point in Tears of the Kingdom, I like what everything is being stood for. Like I like the feeling of the finality of it
Yeah.
in this moment. Where it's just like, all right, this is pretty serious. Like y'all are eating stones and like here's this sword now and it's like fighting in the sky, like constantly falling on you and everything. Like it's a very like it could be a very cinematic set piece. And then yeah, just with that typical gameplay, it kind of waters it down a little bit, and then what follows after.
Yeah, I mean the final piece is that the ghosts of Rauru and Sonia turn up and they transform Zelda back into a human again, and she falls from the sky and Link catches her, and the end, right?
Essentially, yeah, like they use Link and like Link gets his arm back and everything, and it just kind of, and I think did Ganon also turn back?
I feel like he just explodes. I might be wrong, but
I thought he. Yeah, I'm looking.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if he went back to being just like a rigid corpse or whatever. But,
no, I think he explodes with light, and you know what I mean. Like the Master Sword, like makes.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like it rains like gloom for a while, and then it fades into brightness. So you get the bright skies, and then Zelda's falling, and then
Yeah, like her becoming back, like turning back was like, all right, this is where like this is Zelda playing it like the game Zelda playing it safe, and it's like how cool would it have been? I mean, not that I really care to have another game in this setting. I'm ready for a new experience, but it would be cool to see that world just post that event and just you just have a dragon now, like flying around.
Yeah. I felt like this one did back to the Ouroboros thing. I think it very much it played with the pieces and put them back in the box at the end, right? Like it did everything, it mixed everything up, it went wild with it, and then it put it back. What that means for the future of Zelda, I'm not sure. I mean, we can jump into that now. I mean, where do you think this falls timeline-wise or story specifically? The gameplay stuff, I think, is separate, but
it feels very Pocket Dimension to me. Like it does feel like its own thing in a way, just because of the way that the story is being told and about the sages and stuff, and how like if they're trying to connect games, in no other shape or form was Rauru ever seen like that.
Yeah.
Like he was just some old dude with a handlebar mustache. Like
right.
So yeah, and like not like all those like Zonai stuff and what have you. Like it's hard to try to connect dots to other games with, because this game feels like it has its own lore and setting. So I just kind of feel like it's just its own separate thing.
Matt, what do you think?
Sure, what Mark said. I don't know. Zelda stories. I don't really know them that well, but
yeah, no, I agree. I think the placement. I mean, like it's just stupid because they're there, and I don't think you're supposed to think about it or care. But like the placement of all of the other Zelda game costume pieces you can get in this, you can find the Twilight Princess costume, you can find Phantom Ganon armor, all of that stuff you can get. I think like that even lends itself to the idea of this just like being in its own time, but also all of the time. And the fact that Zelda has to carry the Master Sword for centuries, like theoretically she's traveling above the skies of every other Zelda game simultaneously, recharging that Master Sword back for Link. So I have a quote from the technical director on the game, Takahiro Dota. Yes, Matt, Dota. He said, "We've placed more importance on creating a game that enables players to do exactly what they think they can do, rather than how we want them to play the game." Do you think Nintendo was effective in achieving this goal with Tears of the Kingdom?
Like 200%.
That did they do it too well? Did it make for a more rewarding experience?
I mean, I guess it depends on the player, but like the fact that they can just let you cheese the majority of this game is both, it can be rewarding in itself just to have that, but I feel like it does take away from a lot of the game as well. I don't know, it's just like, yeah, I can build a giant mech that has a big rocket dick coming out and shooting flames. Like, they probably didn't even expect anyone to do that at all. But when you put it in our hands, that's the type of things that are going to happen, and you can just have that be an effective weapon if you want. Or like I was saying before, just make a giant ass cube, summon it from the sky, let it drop on a Lionel a couple times, move on. And it's just like, it works.
But you have to have some expectation for that. After, it's not like this is Breath of the Wild and this is their first time doing it. They saw, like, there's no way the developers didn't see what the hell half the exploits were with all the tools and
no, that
Breath
was
of the
actively
Wild.
No, you're right. Sorry to cut you off, but that was actively what led to them creating Ultra Hand in this game. They talk about it in one of the I'm never gonna remember the name of them, the new Iwata Asks style thing when the game launched, and they talked about, like, he straight up said, like, to put together the prototype for this, I built stuff after watching people play on YouTube. Like, they watched people in Breath of the Wild doing weird stuff.
Yeah, so, like, I don't, like, sure, they might not explicitly thought, like, oh, someone's going to build Metal Gear Rex and stomp their way through, Hyrule, but they had to have known, like, with the tools you gave someone, it's going to go somewhere. I think Joe, to answer your question, yes, I also agree with Mark 200%. It feels like it's very structured, and there is a game here. I'm not saying there's not a game, but I almost feel like with the tool set they gave you, they built you an engine, like a game engine, and you could go wild with whatever you wanted to do. And they put enough structure in where, at least, like, if you're not the creative type, you just kind of want to go sword and shield, like, that is still a very that is still a main way you can play the game with no problems. You can attach 4 wheels that are kind of crooked onto one piece of wood and a little motor and go, and it works. It's not the greatest thing you can build, but it, they allow you to get away with stuff like that. But yeah, it is like, the more creative you get and the more, like, you start to think things through, like, you start to learn, like, their own game engine and how to use that in the game and to your advantage. Like, sure, but, like, the thing about exploiting this game, that goes on the player too. Someone wants to spend $70, because this is now a $70 game on Nintendo's platform. Someone wants to spend $70 to exploit something and beat the game in, their first time in 2 hours, just to beat, like, whatever, you do you. I mean, like, it's part of it. I think there's to a degree, most games you can exploit the hell out of shit. If you find it and you just find the bug or, the unintended thing. I think Zelda just, because it treats its tools like an engine, it might just be a little bit easier to find in this game.
Definitely.
Yeah. That was when I sat down and wrote my review for this. It might be the longest review I've written for a game, and I still feel like I wanted to write more. I am wholly conflicted about this game, just through and through. I feel like if you ask me if I like this game, my answer is no. But I've spent so much time this year thinking about it, and I like so much about it. It's hard to say that I don't like it, but at the same time, I don't know. I've never felt this way about a video game before.
like the way I'm seeing it, where like I think it is a very good sandbox experience,
Yeah.
but it's not my favorite Zelda game.
Yeah, and it's not even my favorite type of game to play, so therefore I'm like not in love with this. But at the same time, to both of your points, like with creating something that let me play what I want to play, that part came up in my review where I did love the fact that if I walked into a new area, if I found an encampment of enemies, or if I found a puzzle, a shrine, and I was like, I wonder if I can, like, yes was always the answer. 100% of the time, it was always the answer, like, yes, you can. Sometimes you'd fail, but then you're like, okay, well, hold on, I just have to tweak this thing.
Yeah,
I add this element to it.
And that's kind of what we touched on last time too, where it's like they encourage that so much that like they hardly penalize you for wanting to try new things and experiment with whatever you want to experiment with. Like they try to make it as okay as possible to want to go do these things.
Yeah, and I like the game for that. I don't know.
But it feels like this could have existed in almost any game. It doesn't feel exclusive to Zelda for me.
No, it does. It's weird that this is a Zelda game. At the same time,
Like,
I
this
like
could
that
have
this is a
been-
Zelda game.
Could have been in the Mario game. It could have been in a Sonic game. It could have been, like, you know what I mean? Like, it,
Yeah.
like that type of mechanic feels like it could have existed in almost anything.
Yeah, that's fair. I would play as if Sonic Frontiers was the Breath of the Wild of what is.
Look,
Yeah.
I will say for Sonic Frontiers, definitely better boss fights.
Yeah,
Top
no,
that.
I agree. Sonic
You can't
Frontiers did
top-
a lot of things better than this game. Weirdly enough,
Even though, I mean, it's just very anime, but
no, but it was fun.
the set pieces.
Yeah, I think the fun. Yeah, I
Fun
think
is the
that's
key,
what-
right? And like
yeah.
that's the thing. Like I hit a point in this game where so much of it stopped feeling fun and felt like obligation. Which the more I wrote my review, the more I had to like honestly stop and delete what I was writing and rewrite. Like I spent a lot of time thinking about this review in the weeks leading up to this recording because like I felt like most of the things I was complaining about are my problems, right? But I think that's the nature of making a game designed for whatever your playstyle is. And like I don't know, maybe I'm not as creative now that I'm older or whatever it might be, but I just it didn't, it wasn't everything. But then I think I do like the game. I'm so torn about this. Like I have no clue.
I mean, there's definitely things that you can appreciate. It's just all, I mean, like every review that's ever written out there, you know, it's all a personal,
Sure.
you know, preference type thing. It's everyone's personal opinions in the end. But like, even if like it's not my favorite Zelda game, I can still see that there are like a lot of good, redeeming qualities about the game that I can just absolutely respect the hell out of. But
Sure.
some things just aren't for me.
How have your feelings changed since your first time playing the game?
I think I forget my average play session. I'm not even like that. I don't even think I'm that critical of the game compared to you two, from what I'm sensing. But like every time I played this game, it was for like at least 2 hours, and if I had my say in it, it would have been like 3 to 4
Sure.
before I probably had to do something, and that made me kind of turn it off.
Yeah.
No, I think that's the thing I forget when, you know, months after the fact.
Yeah, that's a good point because every
'Cause
time
I'm
I
playing-
sat down,
Oh, because I'm playing something else right now, which again, open world. I'm having fun with it, but like I can't do that. I need to like I step away after an hour and a half.
that's a good point. Yeah, I did the same thing when this dropped. I just played nothing but it. And in hindsight, I'm wondering if that's what happened. I got burnt out on it, and you know what I mean? Like I did the same thing with Spider-Man 2 when it came out. Played it beat it in a weekend, but it was a weekend and done and complete and behind me. And I feel like
so Spider-Man was like 20 hours, and this was
yeah,
X amount of time.
yeah, beginning to end for me, everything in Spider-Man was 27 hours. I was 84 before I rolled credits on this, so like it's different, right? And it took a month to get to that point versus So I don't. Mark, how about you? How have your feelings changed since first playing?
I definitely started. I mean, I started dropping off more and more, but like I think it's weird. Like starting it, fine. I understood like, all right, this is the beginning of a game. You have to set up certain things for you. Then before you can get to the more open worldness of it all. And then once I got there, there would be times where I would just spend like an entire weekend just getting involved with it, whatever. I can get lost in this game. But starting it always feels like a chore. Like thinking about wanting to play it for some reason, it's never been like I want to hop back in. It's always I gotta finish it. Yeah. But then once I'm in it, I'm not thinking about that anymore. Once the ball starts rolling, I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm getting used to it now. Like I'm in it. Like whatever. And I just like I kind of just tune myself out and just kind of go brain dead while playing it, whatever. And then once I start to know more about the game or like the story wise or progression and everything, I kind of see where it's going. And then my expectations are met. I start to lose a little more interest with it just because I've done this song and dance so many times. But I definitely came into it with a more open mind versus my first experience with Breath of the Wild.
That's a plus, yeah.
Yeah. Because I think they already set the expectations, so I was able to lower mine to enjoy it a little more. But yeah, it's very weird. It was never a thing to look forward to starting out, but once I'm in it, I can be in it. I do have that ability to let myself just get lost.
One of the things that happened in the lead up to recording this final episode is I started to dive back in and look at some videos and find what maybe other people were doing, find inspiration to get excited to play it again. And GameSpot had a really interesting video on YouTube about the like advanced combat. Throughout GameSpot did a ton of these like 27 things you didn't know about Tears of the Kingdom, and they do like one of those videos a month, and like they're still putting them out even as recently as a few weeks back. Just like, oh, wow. There's 30 more things you didn't know. And in one of the videos they did somewhere, they had all this crazy combat stuff, and a bunch of comments were like, how did you do that? There's a whole combat video just breaking down exactly how to do each of those techniques. And after watching that, I was like, okay, after our last episode, maybe I should go try some of this combat stuff to see how it feels. And I booted the save, and it was raining, and I took 2 steps, and I was like, I hate that. I'm done doing this. I know I could have camped by a fire. I know I could have done it, but I just did not. Just feeling the game again, I was like, I don't want to do this. Not right now. Maybe one day. Because there's part of me, I remember Breath of the Wild, like, and maybe it was once the like Heroes Path stuff came out, there was like some sort of incentive to drive me forward to playing more of it. But in Breath of the Wild, I remember at some point going back and I was like, I'm going to do all the side quests and all the shrines, finish all that stuff. And I did, I think the majority of the side quests, and I did finish all the shrines in Breath of the Wild. But Tears of the Kingdom, I'm like, I did the light routes underground. That's the only 100% thing I did, and I don't think I'm going to do anything else. But maybe, right? Like there might be a point where I'm just like itching for it and I want to run through, do the shrines. I don't know. I think it's time we rank Tears of the Kingdom. Unless either of you have final thoughts on the game that we've not covered.
I don't know. You brought it up. I don't know if I remember mentioning it in part 1, but the hero path. Thank God he put that into the game for free.
I think you made a snide aside in the first episode, but I will grant a second snide aside at this point.
Perfect.
Yeah, that should be in there, right? Like especially the fact that it was DLC in the first one. Like, it needed to be in here. But yeah, I'm happy that was in here. Yeah. Before playing the game, where did you expect we were going to rank this?
I mean, I guess just because of brand recognition alone, I expected top 10.
Yeah.
I probably expected top 5 before playing.
Yeah. And I think with like I still think this game has the strongest opening in any Zelda game.
By far.
Yes.
I thought we talked about that before, but yeah, no, I think I know I said, like, I let myself be more open to the open world in this game, but I think, like, just the opening got me hooked more than Breath of the Wild ever did.
Oh, yeah. It was so good. It's still good. I mean, the only thing that's, like, comes close is the first Zelda game, but there's not... Just because you're just thrown into the world.
Go.
But like, this builds so much atmosphere, and this was perfect.
Get a good listen to the good music. That, like, haunting.
Yes, dude. It's like
backwards.
Yeah,
it's real good.
Now imagine if it kept that going instead of having to find bits and pieces on your own pace.
Yeah, so yeah, I think we're all at least top 10. Matt said top 5 prior to this. I agree. After playing it, I'm a little different. Yeah. Listeners, if you'd like to stumble along this with us, thefreecheese.com/thelist is where you can go and view the nightmare we're in front of. I don't know, man. I'm somewhere down in the somewhere between Yearwalk and like Glaylancer, Mass Effect 2.
You're that low in this game? Oh.
Where are you at? Tell me where you're at.
I'm in the top 10.
You're still in the top 10.
Yeah, I think this is a very good video game. I think it does
Sonic Frontiers.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think this is a very good game. I think it does a lot of things Breath of the Wild did wrong better.
I agree. Very
That's
much.
true.
All right, well, hit me with your Master Sword, dude. Pull me out of this. You can.
I'm like, I think I'm number 6, right above Eco, right under the hotline. I mean, I think the games in the top 5 are just, in my opinion, more fun to play moment to moment. This one, yeah, exploring, and there's a lot of things that you go look over there, but sometimes, like, getting over there is a little bit of a trek, but whatever. But no, like, you know, I know the dungeons are A+, but, like, they're better than Breath of the Wild's.
No, they rule. The temples are great.
Like, crafting, yeah, it's in the game, but it's never in your face, like, you have to keep doing this. And like I said earlier, like, you can attach 4 tires to a plank of wood, and it kind of gets the job done most of the time. And then it gets remembered in your recipes, and you just keep repeating that. Like, it's not that big of a deal. The fuse thing kind of fixes weapon degradation.
Yeah,
Kinda. It's better. It's better.
Slap a rock on it.
It adds a lot more diverse combinations to your arrows, though. That's where I use the most.
Yes,
with arrows.
That's true.
Kind of going in with some bombs, like, right away to an encampment was a lot of fun. And then the depths. I know it's kind of like a mirror of the top portion of the map, but, like, you know, I know at times it can get a little samey, but, like, I never felt good about being in the pitch black in the depths, because it had that eerie feeling.
It did have that. My problem with the depths lied in the fact that, one, I uncovered all of it, which sucked.
I was gonna say, I did not uncover all of it.
That changed it. But also, my problem is, like, I agree with you. I never felt truly safe in the depths until I saw that repeat of the boss from the Wind Temple. And I was like, No, but then it took away all of the mystique. I was like, okay, well, that's all that's out there. Like, there's nothing. Is there anything else down here that's threatening or terrifying? And like, yes, there's always things that can kill you, right? That you don't see just ahead in the darkness. But I don't know. I there was once I kind of saw everything that was down there. It was like it kept making it less exciting to explore. And I also hated the just throwing the gloom, the light bulb flowers, what were they called?
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't remember the name.
Yeah, I can't remember the item.
Bright blooms.
That's it.
I hated just like that being the thing that I did for hours was just hold R, aim, throw, or attach them to an arrow and fire them off in the distance. Like it was nice when you eventually got a suit that glowed, or the other part. I'd craft something that had headlights, but then that thing would fall apart after 3 minutes, and I'd have to start from scratch or just run. So I don't know.
Yeah, at this point, I feel like I'm just ranking a game engine more than a game.
Yeah, but how many games let you have that kind of engine and horsepower behind it? Like Elden Ring doesn't let you have this. Elden Ring forces you into many different things.
No, it's like this is so well made. It's like almost too well made. I think that's the thing I don't like about it. It's like they're still stuck in the same problem of Zelda of like it's so designed, like overly designed differently. But I don't know. Top 10, huh?
Yeah, I mean I think there's a couple things I've played that I'm gonna like better this year. One of them is on the list, Street Fighter 6. But like, still my favorite. I don't want to go into too many current events here, but like, I'm playing through Cyberpunk 2077. This game is definitely better than that game, even 1.2.0.
No, for sure. I would never, yeah. But Pikmin 3 is better than Tears of the Kingdom. No, you don't think?
Maybe a tighter experience, but I like Tears of the Kingdom a lot.
All right.
Maybe it's because I didn't play Breath of the Wild properly. I have no idea. Maybe it's also I don't play other Zelda games. Like this is probably technically my first one that I really played legitimately.
Like it was just like I was saying earlier. It's just like I think they have a very good mechanic. It's a very good crafting simulator that they got going on.
Yeah.
But it's a boring Zelda game.
I mean, I will come down, but I just
so that's where my so at the point I'm just trying to focus on the positive. It's like, all right, this is a very good mechanic.
Yeah.
Not many exist like this. The only thing I can compare it to is Minecraft.
Sure.
And it's like where would I rank Minecraft is kind of where my mindset is at the moment.
And okay, the one thing we never really talked about in any of these conversations, and this is always our classic free cheese ranking, is like, let's throw out the last minute crap as we're ranking. But the thing that is very Zelda to me in this that we did not talk about enough is the random side quests and side stories and people you meet and like all of the stuff that feels very much like, everything that Zelda's been doing well since Link's Awakening on Game Boy. Like, when you go into these towns and you start talking to people and like you've got to sneak around to follow a mayor prospect to see if whatever she's up to, like all of that stuff that happens over there, and you get weird
whole
clothes out
thing.
of it. Like there's so many weird things. The whole town that you go to that is a carryover from the town in Breath of the Wild where you have to help what's his face with like the construction of stuff here, and you end up getting your own house in this game, and like there's a ton of stuff like that does feel very Zelda that we never covered because I think as me guiding us, I led us down a negative path, and I apologize for that. But.
No, I think there needs to be a I think we got to keep grounded with it too, but like I mean again it's all obviously it's all personal shit, but like I have grown exhausted with this version of Hyrule, for sure.
I agree. But I do think it's weird. It's one of those, like, some of the parts are like exhaustive of the whole, but like when you do look at like pieces of this individually, it's cool. It's like there's a lot of really, really great things in this game.
I will come down. I just don't
No,
want
I
you
like
to
that
be-
you're so high
you're-
because you're making me like.
I just don't want
reconsider.
you to like think so critically on like your own thoughts of the game. I know you've been like this all year. Like one week is your favorite game, the next week you don't know if it's your favorite Zelda game anymore. Like
Oh, it's never been my favorite game. Don't worry about that. But
well,
no,
I meant like
I
game
know
of the year. Like, hey, I think it's a really good game. Period.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. More than Quake 2? I got him.
I mean, I'm putting it in front of other stuff though that I like. I mean, like I'm putting it in front of Eco, but because that's my weak spot in 6. But like I have Resident Evil 4 remake in high regard.
See, I liked RE4 way better than this.
I think moment to moment I liked it, but I think some of the highs of Zelda I had more fun with.
Yeah, I've noticed. I've been analyzing that spot, Matt, the entire time, and I think I might be in agreement with you.
Where?
I like Eco personally more than Tears of the Kingdom. Just let that be known. But, just trying to like respect what Zelda has going for it, I think would put it above it.
I mean, just to let you know, I've always been the outlier on Eco though, so that's always my weak spot in the top 10. I do like,
but like I'm definitely in like that area because like I'm like
you're up there too.
Portal 2 was kind of my threshold. Like, does it go above or below this? And I'm like, I could put it above Portal 2. Resident Evil 4, I like Resident Evil 4, but there's things with that I would have done differently as well. So I definitely, I think I would put Zelda above that one as well. Eco's kind of where I'm like flippy floppy. It can go above or below it.
I can concede if we go below Eco, does that hate? Do you hate that?
That's you're the one that's moving all the spots. I'm
coming up
go
like
down
20,
one.
dude.
Yeah, but... I know. Like I'm not gonna be butthurt if moving one down. I said I'm open to this. I was just like initial thoughts. Look at his list. Yeah.
Like, I could see myself going back and playing this. I could see me having an itch and wanting to go back and play Zelda once, like, the dust has settled and everything. But,
yeah, it's...
compared to these other games, I could see me coming back to this more than these other ones.
No, I know. I need to fight the, like... There's some weird part of me that wants to hate this game. And that part I can't turn off. Because there's so much to like about the game.
I think it just has a very good crafting mechanic. The story is whatever, you know, like it's.
But I like the story. I didn't like how it was presented. I didn't like that it was out of order. But I liked the general idea. I liked the way that everything tied together. The Ouroboros.
I want them to stop playing it safe. That's what I want.
Yeah, but I don't think they ever will. You know.
Yeah. I think.
Then I guess I'm just not staying as a Zelda fan in the near future.
But I liked the way that it explained everything, Breath of the Wild stuff. Like, I liked a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we can lock it in at 7. We got to do it before I change my mind.
Happy with there.
Not the free cheese. I'm typing the free cheese.
Free cheese, rank 7.
Congratulations, Nintendo. I guess not quite.
I still love that Wii Sports and Quake are still.
I know. Well, hey, See what season 12 brings.
Wii Sport blows this game out of the water.
It does, dude.
Yo,
Name a better
bowling.
game than Wii Sports.
Can't.
We can't. Not yet.
No, I love it.
I didn't expect this. All right. It's good. It's good. Listener.
Don't worry. Down the line, we'll be like, why do we do this? But
Yeah, I know.
Didn't we rank Breath of the Wild for Game of the Year? Or was that just posed as an idea internally and never made it to the public airs, and I'm now revealing our secrets?
Wait, did we rank it for Game of the Year?
Yeah.
I think we did. I'm pulling it up now.
I think we did give it a like redemption thing at some point.
Well, was it not in our top 5 that year that it was there?
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I was a big part of that.
Well, it's
No,
in our
yeah,
Game of
the
the Year. We ranked it in episode 430.
Yeah, it was not in the top 5 that year. That was our bonus rank.
Huh.
Yeah, when that game first came out, I was adamant on that not being.
Well, what was our... now I gotta know what our top...
I think was that the year God of War won? Or they
2016 was... I'm sorry, 2017.
I don't
2017
know.
was near at number 1.
Oh, well, that makes
I know.
sense.
But... yeah, Breath of the Wild was not there.
Yeah,
It was
I know. I took it. I knocked it out.
Near Cuphead, Resident Evil 7, PUBG, and Super Mario Odyssey were our top 5.
Hell
that
yeah,
year.
PUBG.
Winner.
Yeah. Huh. Near Automata is something else, man.
I think vaulting was added right before that Game of the Year, by the way.
I think
that
that's
was a
why
big-
you got it in top 5. That's
It vaulted up there.
yeah.
See ya.
Yeah. Well, that completes our rankings for season 11. We now have 81 video games on thefreecheese.com/the list. Just a few more weeks of the podcast for the year, so stay tuned for that. If you're longing for more Zelda, come back next week. We're going to close out November with a more broad conversation about the Legend of Zelda series. Until then, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. Bye.